Hello there, everyone. My name is Crazy Caleb, and today we're going to be taking a look at the sensor maze. So this is the way the module looks. We have 4 different status lights at each of the corners of the module here, and when you hover over them, a series of different colors can potentially pop up, and that can range from orange, yellow, jade, cyan, blue, violet, magenta, white, gray, and lastly brown. So this is the way the module looks, and what we're going to be doing is we need to navigate through a specific maze that we get, and we need to touch all 4 corners in order to solve the module. And these are the way the mazes look like here, and let's get into the module. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be figuring out, let's get all of our colors that we get from highlighting each of the 4 corners, and let's see what we can do from there. So I'll do it sort of in a clockwise fashion. We'll start at the top left going clockwise. So we have um, violet, magenta, orange, orange. Violet, magenta, orange, orange. Then for top right, we have white. Now, the difference between white and gray, let's see if I can get an example here. Well, that might actually be relevant later on, but still. White is a very much brighter one. White, in this case, would be the top left, so that's the way that it looks. And then we have yellow, cyan, and then this is an orange. Or no, this is brown. Brown and orange. Orange is a much brighter version, and then brown is a little bit of a lighter version. So in the bottom right, in this case, it would be brown, and then looking at this light, these guys would be orange here. So those are the key distinctions of the colors that you need to pay attention to. Same thing with violet and magenta. Violet looks more of like a purple-ish in the top right there, and magenta looks more of a pinkish in the bottom left. So that's the way it'll distinct from the colors. Okay, so for the top right, we have white, yellow, cyan, brown. White, yellow, cyan, brown. And brown is marked with a November. The capitals mean what letter is going to be marked by. So for example, gray is Echo, orange is Oscar, so on and so forth. And for the bottom left, we have brown, jade, yellow, and blue. Brown, jade, yellow, blue. Brown, jade, yellow, blue. And lastly, we have cyan, violet, magenta, blue. Cyan, violet, magenta, blue. Okay? Now, what exactly do we need to do? We need to figure out a series of 3 different colors. 2 of these colors will appear only once among all of the colors of the lights, and 1 does not occur at all. And the rest all occur twice each. So that's what we're going to be looking for. So we need to figure out which of these colors only appears once. There's 2 of them, and we need to figure out which one actually doesn't appear at all. And from what I've already discerned, I was trying to demonstrate what gray was on the module, and we didn't actually get a gray present at all. So this already means that this is the one that doesn't occur at all. So gray does not occur. Okay, with missing. However, we need to figure out which colors flash twice in this case. Flash twice, and we need to figure out which of the 2 only flash once, only appear once. So that's going to be what we're looking at. So what I usually go through, and this can be a little bit simplified, you don't actually need to know all this stuff down, is I tend to just go through the list here and figure out which of the first 2 appear. And if we happen to run into one, it just makes my life a little bit easier, because looking through this list, it just helps me keep track of what I've done and what I haven't done. So we can look at orange. Those are 2 Oscars. We have 2 Oscars present right here. And as you can see, 2 oranges in the bottom left and bottom right there. So that is not what we're looking for. Next up, yellow. We have 2 yellows right here and right here. We have next up jade. Jade actually is one of our first ones that we're going to be missing here. Jade only appears once. There's only one J, so I'm going to mark this down as a J for right now. And that is one of the 2 colors that only appear once. Next up, cyan. Cyan appears twice. We have 2 Charlies right here and right here. Blue. Blue appears twice right here and here. Perfect. Violet. Violet does appear twice, right here and right here. Just make sure that is indeed violet. Yep. Next up, magenta. Magenta does appear twice, right here and right here. Gray, we said, was the one that we were missing, and brown right here and right here. Hold on, I might have noted down something wrong here. Maybe I just skipped over one. 2 cyans, 2 blues, 2 violets. Did I perhaps note something down wrong? That's a violet. Violet. Oh, white. White was the one I skipped over. Sorry about that. And then white only appears once, so that is our second color that we are missing. So the 2 colors that only appear once are jade and white. So now, what exactly are we going to do with these guys? So we need to figure out which order we're going to be going to each of the status lights through this maze. So the maze of which we'll get back to what the maze is. But for now, what we want to focus on is we want to focus on the colors that appear only once. So we're going to figure out the first three, and then obviously we're going to press the last remaining light for the fourth one. So the first light to press is one of the lights that reveal a unique color when it is highlighted. Now, let's pay attention to the terminology here because the terminology is very important for this bit. The first light to press is one of the lights that reveal a unique color. So this is referring to which position the status light, when highlighted over it, reveals one of the two of jade or white. So let's take a look. So we highlighted over top left, no jade or white. Top right. Top right does have white, so top right is one of the positions. Now if you go bottom left is jade, so bottom left does have the jade. So we have our two positions that we hovered over, because what happens when this is referring to revealing the unique color. This is not referring to the actual position of the unique color, which step 2 happens to be that rule, but we'll get into that later. So the two positions that reveal a unique color is going to be top right, which we have white up in the top left here, and we have bottom left, which reveals that jade. So what exactly are we going to be doing with these positions? If the lights are adjacent, so it's going to be a top right and a bottom left, then press the first. Then the first press is clockwise from the other. However, in this case, top right and bottom left are not clockwise from each other. They are not adjacent to each other, so we simply will not be using that rule. They are not adjacent, they are simply across. This is the only case, mind you, that this would be not adjacent, like this, top right, bottom left, or top left, bottom right. It's only diagonal. Otherwise, the first press is the light that is on the top half of the module. So we have the top half on the module being top right, so our first press is going to be top right. Next up, we're going to be focusing on the second light. To determine the second light, we're going to be pressing which one of the positions that those actual lights popped up. So we need to find the actual positions of which jade and white are in, based off of when we highlight it. So we've highlighted top right. White is up in the top left, and for jade, jade is up in the top right. Okay, so now these lights are indeed adjacent. Top left and top right are right next to each other, so they are adjacent. So now, what exactly do we do with this one? The second press is anti-clockwise from the other. So what exactly does this mean? So what we need to do is we need to start from the position that is applicable to go anti-clockwise to our second position. So we need to start from top right, and then we should be able to go anti-clockwise to get to our next one, which is going to be the top left. The top left will be the second press, and that's going to be this part of the module. So what exactly does this mean? So for the first step, it's going to be the first press that is clockwise to the other. If it happened to be top left and top right, what our goal is we want to, of the two adjacent tiles, we want to be able to move simply one space clockwise to the next one, and that would be the first one that we press, the one that we go clockwise to. So that's what the whole thing is. That's what the whole premise of that is. Hope that makes sense. But it's simply comparing 2 points, and we need to figure out which one can either go clockwise from the other, and then which can we go to counterclockwise. So in this case, top right allows us to go counterclockwise or anti-clockwise, as it's worded in here. Top right allows us to go anti-clockwise to top left, which is where white was, and just like that, that's going to be our second position that we're going to look at. So now we have our first two positions. The third light to press is given by the unique colors. So what we need to do is we need to find a intersection between of which jade and white meet up in. So we have jade, and looking at this table, it's not exactly perfect. So what this means is that we don't know which one exactly is our row or our column quite yet. But we can try something out and see, like jade, top right, or bottom left. However, both of those, orange and yellow, are not what we're looking for. We're looking for white here. So what happens if we use white as our column instead? If we use white as our column, we can have an intersection with jade, which gives us bottom left. And just like that, now, obviously, we have 3 unique different presses of lights that we need to get to. And now what we're going to do is we're simply going to press the last remaining light. So the one that we have left is bottom right. We still have not gone to that one yet. And this is the order that we're going to go to each of the status lights throughout our maze. So we're going to go top right, top left, bottom left, and bottom right. So top right, top left, and bottom right, simply counterclockwise. So what exactly do we need to do? So once the first light is pressed, so what we need to do is we need to simply activate the maze. And that's going to be simply using the first press. So the first press would be top right, but I'm not going to do this quite yet because I need to explain this next part. The walls of the maze are given by the color that was not shown by any of the lights. This is where the one that was missing comes into play. So, um, so what we need to do is these walls, except the 4 that surround the module, are not visible on the module. So let's get this going, and we're going to navigate through the maze, avoiding highlighting any of its walls to press the other 3 lights. So the one that we were missing was gray. Gray was missing, so we're going to be using the gray maze, which happens to look like this. This is a rather quite tricky one. Oh god. And what we're going to do is we're simply going to avoid any of those lines. We're simply going to avoid any of those walls, which happen to be present on the module. Of course, the border is, of course, going to be present. It's advised you don't go off it. And we should be able to solve this module. So we need to go from top right to top left to bottom right. Now, this, without question, is probably the trickiest part of the module because the module actually doesn't show where the walls are, and you simply have to simply rely on being roughly in the right area. This is why this is very, very tricky on voice. This is going to be very, very tricky. However, Speaking Evil has conveniently provided us with 2 additional lines in the actual module, which represent the middle points here, the horizontal axis and the vertical axis. So we're actually able to sort of distinct where we would be in the middle of the module, so we are not doing this sort of blindly. It's the module and the maze are to scale, so this is going to be completely accurate to what we're looking at. So let's get into this module. So we need to start in the top right. And we're going to press the top right to get us going. And now the border does indeed appear on the, as you can see right here. And now what we need to do is we need to simply avoid the walls. So hopefully you guys can follow my mouse. Hopefully it pops up on the OBS, because I believe it does. And we're simply going to take it nice and slow and avoid any walls. So let's go up to the top left. Let's get to the top left. We're going to press the status light. And just like that, it's good. Next up, let's go to the bottom left. Let's be very careful here. Okay. Now we can go down to the bottom left. All right, and then let's do one more time. So up to the middle. Then we go down to the bottom left, being careful here. And then now we've made it to the last status light. And just like that, is a solved module. Let's take a look at another example. This module is pretty straightforward, however, this can be very tricky, and we actually happen to get one of the trickier mazes present here. We can have easier stuff like Magenta, we could have some stuff like Blue, that's pretty straightforward, Orange is another straightforward one, or we can have complicated stuff like Cyan. I'd say probably, in my opinion, Cyan is probably the most complicated one, just because of how wacky the maze actually is. But Gray is definitely up there as one of the trickier ones too. It's probably the trickiest if you are not careful. But I digress. Let's move on to another example, and let's get this going. Now, I'm not going to note down everything the way I just did before. It was just kind of a way of visualizing it. So let's just go through the list, and let's see if we can figure out some pairs here. Let's go through each of the colors. So this is what I mean. This is so this top left one right here is gray, and this bottom right one is white. So we're able to distinguish gray from white. You can obviously tell by the shine too. White is a much brighter shine, as you can see, and gray is obviously not as bright. So let's find some oranges, if we can find any oranges present on here. Orange actually is our missing one here. I did not see any oranges, but I did see 2 browns. This is actually orange. Orange is missing. And now let's figure out which colors occur only once. So we have yellow as our next one. Yellow occurs twice. Jade occurs twice. Cyan once. Cyan twice. Next up, blue. There's blue once. Oh, blue is our first one that occurs twice. That occurs only once, rather. Just make sure. Yep, it only pops up right there. And I'm going to note down the position of which the status light is actually revealed. So for blue, it was revealed in the bottom left. And for the next one, continuing on, violet. Do we have any violets out there? One violet. Two violets, and down in the bottom right there. Next up, magenta. There's one magenta. Oh, that's our second one right there, it appears. Let's make sure. Should be just the one magenta right here. Yep. And just like that, that's perfect. So the one that activates magenta is bottom right. Okay. So this is what we're going to do. So the first light is the first light to press is one of the lights that reveals a unique color. The ones that revealed our unique colors was bottom left and bottom right. That revealed our blue and our magenta. So that's what we're going to be using. So now the lights are indeed adjacent because bottom left and bottom right are adjacent. So now what we're going to do is we're going to figure out our first press being one of these two here. We need to figure out which one goes clockwise from the other. So, for example, we have bottom right here. Bottom right can go clockwise to bottom left. So bottom left is our first press. All right. So now that first step is done. And next up, we have the second light to press is one of the lights that show up the unique color. So what positions are our unique colors in? So if we highlight bottom left, blue is up in the top left, and magenta is up in the top right. So top left, top right is what we're looking at here. The lights are indeed adjacent because top left and top right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do the second press. The second press is anti-clockwise from the other. So if we move counterclockwise from top right, that would get us to top left. And top left is going to be our second press. So now let's use the table here. So we have blue and magenta. Blue cannot be used as a column. Magenta can be used as a column right here. They intersect, which gives us our third light here. So top right is going to be our third, and as you would suspect, our last one is going to be bottom right. So now our missing color is orange. Orange is a pretty easy one. And now we're going to start at bottom left. We're going to go to top left, top right, and then lastly bottom right. Let's start at bottom left. That's good so far. The maze walls the maze outside has appeared, and now we're going to navigate through this maze. We're going to go up a little bit, not reaching the center quite yet. We're going to go left. Then we're going to go up. Okay, top left has been reached. Let's go here. Let's go here. And let's go up all the way, almost. And then we can go all the way right. Top right. Now, one thing I will note after this module, before I finish this up, let's finish this up real quick. So all the way right, and then all the way down to our bottom right position. So, one thing I want to note, that the module does reset upon striking, so we have to be very, very careful about that. And it's important to note that do not attempt to deselect the module while the maze is active. Doing so will not only incur a strike and reset the module, but the module will also be disabled for 60 seconds. So you will actually not be able to do anything with the module, which I believe is just referring to you getting in the maze. I still think you can get the read. However, I haven't had this instance pop up for me, but just keep that in mind that the module does reset when striking. So just be very careful with that. So now, another important thing to note, I want to get this maze actually going here. Let's pop up a log, and I want to see what maze we're actually in, because I want to demonstrate what happens when you actually strike. So we have, for our last one here, it's the maze is in Cyan, so we start at top left. So the maze is in Cyan, right here, and we start at the top left. Now what happens if we happen to strike here? So if we happen to hit one of the walls, let's say that top left bit right here, if we happen to go into it, note that it shows us where the maze is. It shows us everything of where the actual maze is, all of the walls, and now it's been reset. But just that's a clear indication of when you've struck, is when you can actually see the maze walls present on the actual module again. That means you've pretty much struck. That means you're dead. Well, not dead, but still you struck. So let's close the log, and let's actually get some of the real work done now. So let's go through the colors again. And this module is pretty straightforward. It is really, really tricky for voice bombs even. So just be aware of that, and just understand these little lines represent the middle points of the module, And it actually is really helpful if you visualize it like that, because some cases can be a little bit tricky, like this one, for example. For blue, the only point of which you can go to the other side is through that little middle gap, which you happen to need to go through at the exact center here. So that's just a better way of visualizing it. So keep that in mind. Same thing with magenta. Magenta is another tricky one. It's got a very small gap that you can go through, but it's very easy to traverse if you happen to know what you're talking about. So anyways, let's get into the module. So we have oranges. Do we have any oranges present on here? We've got one orange. Oh, that very first one. Orange is one of the ones that only occurs once. Just make sure. That's brown down there. That's, nope. Orange is in the bottom right. There's nothing here. So next up, yellow. Yellow, once. Oh, yellow's our second one. Beautiful. So now what we need to do is we simply need to find the color that doesn't occur at all. And just to make sure, yellow right there. Yeah, nothing else. Okay. So next up, jade. Jade, I believe I did see. Yes, jade does come up. Cyan does come up. Blue comes up. Violet. Oh, violet's our missing one. So violet is the missing one that we're going to be missing. That's missing. Um, and that's the maze that we're going to use. So we're going to use the violet maze. The violet maze is right here. Another tricky one, I'd say. It's a lot of diagonals, so we'll keep that in mind. But let's figure out the order that we need to go through. The first light to press is the one that that reveals the unique colors. So we need to figure out which ones reveal orange and yellow. So orange, yellow was revealed by top left, and orange, I believe, was revealed by bottom right. Yes, bottom right. So these guys are not adjacent to each other. Top left and bottom right are not adjacent at all. And what this means is we're going to do, the first press is going to be on the top half. So we're going to be using top left as our first button press. Next up, the actual positions of the orange and yellow. Yellow is in the top right, and orange is in the bottom right, as you can suspect. So now, these guys are adjacent to each other. So we're going to be doing the second press. The second press is anti-clockwise from the other. Bottom right, anti-clockwise over to top right is going to be our second press. So top right is going to be our second press. And let's look at this little chart here. Orange and yellow. Orange and yellow right here. Yellow is our column, orange is our row, which means bottom right is our third. And lastly, bottom left is our fourth. So this is what we're going to do. So now let's get this going. So we're going to start at the top left in violet here, and we're going to go top left, top right, bottom left. Do top left. Let's go down to the center right there. Let's go.
And why would that be?
Oof. Be very tricky sometimes, and I must have been off by a little bit. I should have been able to use the coordinates, so let's continue on. Let's redo this real quick. I'll go through this a lot faster, so we can get into another manual, another module. Blues are present, orange. Orange is one of the missing ones. Yellows, I didn't even actually see any yellows. Yellows are missing, cool. Yellow missing. Jade status, 1, 2, there was 2 cyan as well, blue, 2 violet, magenta, that's our guy. Orange and magenta pop up in bottom right and bottom left, so that's going to be, they are adjacent, first one clockwise from each other. That's going to be bottom left for our first one. Oh wait. Bottom right, bottom left. Oh, they literally happen to appear both in bottom right and bottom left, so that means this is now bottom right. And then orange and magenta. And the way that was bottom right is because both of them happen to be the exact positions of which they highlight. The one that we go anti-clockwise from, because they're both adjacent, would be bottom right. Next up, magenta and orange is going to be top left, then we have top right. And now we're going to use the yellow maze. Yellow maze is right here. Okay, this one's pretty straightforward. So let's do bottom left. And I believe it's been 60 seconds by this point. Bottom left. Okay. Then up. And then let's go right here. Up. Down to you. Okay. Then next up to top left. all the way up. Top left. Okay. And then all the way up back to the center. And then all the way down diagonally. Let's go up to top right. And just like that is a solved module. As always, thank you guys for watching. Sorry about the mistake for Violet earlier. That was a bit of a weird one. And I shouldn't have really struck on that. It's my bad. But let's ignore that. As always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to stay crazy, stay cool, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.